good morning. Hey, good morning. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Let's see. Let's get on there here. Hello, good morning. It's Conservation Coffee. Good morning, everybody. I hope you are snuggled up to a nice cup of coffee or matcha, or if it's evening time for you, a wine or a beer or a water. We can drink anything. Anyway, I wanted to say good morning to everybody. It is another day of Conservation Coffee. Now, what we do this morning is we like to tell positive stories that are happening in the eco world to give everybody a little spring in the step. You know, it's difficult. It's very difficult because when you are in conservation, you don't always have a lot of victories. So it's nice to have them. Hey, Coralie, good morning. I hope you're doing well. Happy rise and shine to you. Coralie, I know you've been working a lot out there fighting for the environment, and a lot of that comes down to what's going to be happening in the elections this year. The environment's extremely tied to the elections. So it's a very complicated year. So we have to, I think, always think forward in the sense of what are we doing and how will that benefit future generations, as we always talk about. So today we have actually a couple really interesting, positive stories. But I actually want to start on a personal story today, which I don't tell too many personal stories, but here we go. So the other day, it was actually yesterday, I was at a grocery store, I was at Ralph's shopping, and I've been having extreme side effects from my cancer meds. So my hands sometimes will get into these spasms and I can't even control them. Usually when I'm at home, I take CBD and the CBD helps. Actually, I just dropped this in. I use a few drops of this every day, preemptive CBD. CBD is like, it's you know, and I hate when I have to leave my house because I don't have it with me. Anyway, I'm at the grocery store and, you know, I looked up and the only thing they had was self-checkout. They didn't have any checkout that you could go and actually get help. So I said to somebody, is there any way to get, you know, somebody to help me? Because my hands were stuck. They're like, you know, they're like Edward Scissorhands, except if they were just twigs, right? Like useless. So, you know, I said, hey, is there any way you can get somebody to help? And they said, no, we only have self-checkout right now. I said, all right, that's fair enough. So I was able to do the checkout. It was extremely painful for me. And at the end, it actually created a whole new series of spasms that put me out for the rest of the day. I came back, I had my CBD, and the CBD helped calm them down. But then I had to kind of take the rest of the day off. Anyway, I called back to the store and I said, look, sometimes I have this problem with my cancer medication and I need some help. Now, I'm a pretty big guy. I don't appear on the outset to have any physical ailments. So, you know, perhaps they didn't really think I needed anything at the time. But, you know, I called back and I said, I just, you know, is there a way, like next time, that I can get some assistance? Because I'm having a lot of problems with my side effects and I'm battling cancer right now and my medicine sometimes. And she started laughing. And I'm not making this up. And you don't have to be outraged or feel bad for me or anything, but she was actually very, it was really crazy reaction. She laughed like I was making it up, you know, because I wanted some kind of special attention. She was like, oh, okay, yeah, really? Okay, yeah. And I was just like, whoa. So it hit me, I guess, you know, maybe we're all in our homes so much that we get to surround ourselves with all the good people in life. But it's sad right now because it made me realize that we're entering a time where cruelty is allowed to be justified through ... you know, but it's okay because I think if we can pinpoint that as one of our problems in our societies, then we need to know that changing that can actually change things for the positive. We've destroyed the environment because through our negativity, and we're starting to now tear each other apart through negativity. And we need positivity to find a way forward. Now, the reason that I bring positivity up is I had a great experience early on. This is all going to come back to conservation, I promise. So, again, being hit with like just the insane cruelty of somebody thinking that, side effects of chemo are funny was a real shock to me. So, I try to live, I try not to live in a way that hurts other people. And I guess other people are so, walk around, so injured from their lives that they lash out continuously. And that, I think, is really the problem where we find ourselves. How can we move forward and expect more out of ourselves if we can't even get the basics together? Now, hey, Camilla, good morning. Thank you. Yes, this is the good morning shirt. You guys can see there's a little boat right there. This is where I am in my mind. I'm right here on this island. I hope you're having a good tea or coffee this morning. So when I was younger, 1999, I had the good fortune of starting to work on a reggae documentary, which changed my life forever. But one of the beautiful parts of it was the philosophy of the reggae movement and of the people in the movement. And this is a picture of me in 1998 with Ross Pidal. Ross means elder or head in Rasta. Actually, and that would explain, in case you're not familiar, that's where Rastafari comes from. Tafari was the actual emperor, of Ethiopia. And when he was, and his name was Haile Selassie. And once he became known as Ras Tafari, that is where the movement started, and that's where it got its name from the actual thing. Anyway, this was Ross Pidal, and Ross Pidal was brought by the Smithsonian Institute to teach Rastafari to inner city groups and to give people places to go instead of usual avenues of negativity. Anyway, Ross Pidal, and that's life, little baby life. Ross Pidal, I used to spend a lot of time with Ross Pidal, and one thing that Ross Pidal taught me was that we are vibrations ourselves. The world is vibrations, and what you do and how you vibrate at home on your day-to-day, how you move through the world is how the entire world collectively will feel, vibrate, and move. So what Ross Pidal used to say, we've talked about it before, is that you just have to listen to your heart, literally, because your heart says, do good, do good, do good, do good. So that's what I learned from Ross Pidal. Listen to your heart, do good. And the reason I bring all this back up is because positive vibrations can change the world as we know it. It can change people as we know it. But we're starting to learn that it can actually change coral reefs as we know them. I know, isn't that cool? There is a, I don't know if you guys have ever had the good fortune to be out on a coral reef, but these are some fish. These are really cute fish. They're called parrotfish. And parrotfish have these giant goofy teeth. And the very first time that I was on a reef, I was in Panama, and the boat dropped me off on the reef, and then it left about a quarter mile to go over on another reef where there was a swell hitting and all my friends were surfing. But I wanted to just dive. I wanted to see the reef. And I was there, and I just remember it was the weirdest thing, because you're in the middle of the ocean, and all of a sudden you hear, and so what is that noise? Because you think you're alone on the reef, but you're not. That often is the sound of shrimps. It's the sound of pops and crackles, and the reef is actually super alive. And one of the friends on the reef is the parrotfish. Elena, bună ziua. It's nice to see you. Thank you for tuning in from Romania. And bună ziua means good day, everybody. And actually over here it's still night, so it's still the morning time. So my favorite thing too is to learn the word for coffee around the world. If everybody, most of us use the same words, but in Romania it's cafea. Of course in the States it's coffee. I imagine in the UK it's coffee. We vary a little bit here and there, but for the most part we have the same words. But the word for coffee around the world is interesting because it's the one thing that humans all share is a love of a good cup of coffee or tea. But yeah, so I'm out on the reefs, and you're just in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of nowhere, and the reefs are really noisy. They're super noisy. And so this is one of the parrotfish. This is one of the guys that makes all the noise. And it's what they do is they actually eat the dead coral. They're real good for coral. They eat the dead coral and then they poop it out, and that becomes white sand on many of the beaches. So when you have that, envision the beautiful coral beach, the beautiful white beach and the blue. Anyway, it comes from parrotfish poop for the most part. But the reason I bring this up is that parrotfish are extremely noisy, but reefs are extremely noisy. Now, reefs, I don't know if you're familiar, but our reefs are under attack. We're losing reefs every day. It's crazy. Not only do we lose them to bleaching, but we talk about it in climate change. We talk about coral bleaching. We talk about the destruction of the reefs. Dynamite fishing on the reefs, which I saw firsthand in the Philippines. Crazy. Coral bleaching, which I saw firsthand in the Philippines. Really destructive and sad. But one thing people don't talk about is coral mining. If you're like me, you probably didn't even know it existed. Coral mining. They mine out the dead coral and they use it for a multitude of things. One, they use it to grind up to create calcium for food ingredients. They use it to grind up as construction material and repurpose construction material. It's amazing. But the problem is when you take out the dead reef, you're taking out, even though it's considered a dead reef in our minds, it's still active and it still has life and it still provides shelter. And so what happens is in a dead reef, a different set of animals move in and you have an opportunity to bring it back. So just to bring it back to Ross Padow's do good, do good, do good, do good. Vibrations can change things. So what scientists have discovered, this is super cool. They are playing music, what would be considered music on a reef. And it's like a series of clicks and sounds, and there's all these noises on the reef of all these there's types of fish that make sounds. I mean, people that don't dive aren't familiar with the sound of the reef, and it's incredible. Fish have their own communities, they have their own lives, and they have their own ways of communicating. We don't know them, so we assume that they're just things that go around the world and just are there for us to eat. But no, fish have their own lives. And what they're finding is that if they play these tapes of an active live coral, what happens is the animals come back and the fish come back and they start to rebuild and the coral starts to gain life again. I know, isn't that beautiful? So incredible, incredible, incredible discovery for reefs is that the reefs are coming back using natural vibrations and sound, and basically what would be considered a symphony in the reef world. Hey, good morning, Vera. It's nice to see you. Good. Coffee. Excellent. 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 I'm just trying out a brand new coffee. I got it because it was the letter E for my name. And I thought, wow, that sounds interesting. And it's a fair trade coffee. And it's actually very delicious. It comes from Peru and South America. Delicious coffee. Coralie was named after coral. Oh, Coralie, that's beautiful. I can see that now. My dad was just back from the Philippines and he said, I was pink like the coral. Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine how gorgeous the Philippines coral must have been when your dad was there. What I saw was pretty impressive. Gigantic brain corals and all kinds of coral, but so much dead coral activity. And again, it comes from bleaching. It comes from coral mining, which again, didn't know it existed until I was researching all this. All coming together. Hey, Sierra, good morning. Good to have you on. And Camilla, fish are friends, exactly, not food. And it's so true. Sonia, good morning. All right, another coffee friend. I'll tell you, it's the best thing in the world, because no matter what you drink in the morning, you are having a few minutes to yourself. And if we go back to what Ross Padow, my Rasta elder, taught me about vibrations in the universe, if we listen to our hearts, do good. All that stems from how you vibrate throughout the day. It was interesting. And you hear the same philosophy around the world from different people. I got to interview Carlos Santana. He said the same thing. Your output is your input. What you allow in and how you digest is, and how you go through the world is what the world changes to. And I believe in that firmly. Revolution through routine. We can all change the world by how we act and if we can shop ethically. So that brings us to number 2. So number 1 is great. It's all about positive vibes changing the world, and it can change coral reefs. So cool. So they're playing, in case you're coming in late, they are playing recordings of active reefs, live coral reefs, and it's bringing younger fish in to start repopulating the dead coral reefs, where parrotfish and other animals are coming in and still doing what's natural for dead reefs. So we have this beautiful fight to save the reefs. And I have actually a lot of friends working in Cambodia and other countries trying to repopulate coral reefs. My friend Scott Countryman, he was on a little while ago. He actually invented this beautiful method of using electricity in the beginning to stimulate coral growth. Fascinating. There's a lot of great advancements. And so it's interesting as people, it's funny because people will say, well, the climate's fine, whatever, but we all understand the coral's disappearing and we are fighting to save it. Whether we want to agree on that or not, we are fighting to save it. Sonia says, just got back from the Keys and listened to lots of popping and crackling at the reefs. Oh, beautiful. I follow the sound to find other reef areas. That is, oh my gosh, Sonia, that sounds wonderful. I'm so envious. I have not been in a tropical reef area for a while now, and I really miss it. It has a life of its own, and it is incredible. And they're entire ecosystems. But it is amazing to me that they're coming back just by playing the sounds of a healthy reef. So vibrations can change everything. So remember, no matter what your situation is, try to have the moments in life, live your life in a way that allows you to be kind, because it can change everything. And it can even fish know that. Even fish know that. So if fish can know that, we can know that. And we all go on vibrations. The world is a vibration. Physicists have discovered that. It is true. Sonia, I love that. And it is such a unique sound. Yeah. So, and if anybody hasn't heard it, go to YouTube or Google it, and you'll be in for such an amazing surprise. There's actually a symphony of sounds underwater that you can hear. I've been diving and I've heard whales far off in the distance. It's incredible. You hear so many amazing sounds, and it really, Jacques Cousteau called it the silent world, but look, Jacques Cousteau did his best for his time, but at the same time, they also had a lot of really destructive practices. And if you go back and watch some of those shows, you're like, no, because they're like, we wanted to discover more about this animal, so we blew it up, and you're like, no. But that was science in the 50s. Things have changed. Sonia says, stimulating the coral via sounds really amazing. Yeah. Isn't that cool? I know. It's really incredible. And it would be great to see the coral grow back. We can do this. And this is one way people are fighting back using what they've discovered in a positive fashion. So great eco news. I wanted to share that with everybody. Coralie says, choose kindness 100%. And Camilla, yes, I agree. We have to talk about, because it's a whole perspective, right? Like, it's a whole perspective. Kindness emanates from the heart to every action, every thought that you meet, every person you meet. And every person you meet, if you're not kind to them, they're going to have that anger energy, and then they're going to go shoot it out somewhere else. So we have to, kindness needs to be a move forward. And we are the link in the chain that can change all of it. I always say pay it forward. Everyone seems to understand that. But they got to understand it's even more than that. You can pay it forward every day by how you live, whether you're shopping or just living. So one of the things I wanted to talk about real fast is also tourism. Tourism creates so much issue. Hey, Sandy, good morning. Yes. Wow, polyps birthing. I've heard that in Oahu. That sounds incredible, Sandy. Beautiful. See, these are the things that are more expensive. As Bob Marley said, wisdom is better than silver or gold. right? And to have experienced one incredible sunset or to have heard one animal in its own nature can replace every dollar everybody's ever had or spent. Vicky, hey Vicky, good morning. Nice to see you from Thailand. Vicky says we have so many black tip reef sharks back in Thailand at, how do you pronounce that? Fi? Terrible pronunciations that I haven't spotted in years. Oh, geez. Upside of COVID is not so many tourist boats. That is fantastic. Yeah, and that's one thing is nature's gotten a little bit of a break. So how do people that need a beautiful environment have tourists come, and the tourists generally destroy everything and then leave? How do you make your money on your environment while preserving your environment? Because, a lot of places, this is the idea. You take places where fishermen were exploiting the environments and you give them a way to make money on ecotourism. You do the same thing in Africa with poachers. There's a lot of rehabilitation programs. But the question is, how do you keep it safe from the very people that are saving it? Right? It's complicated. Like Vicky said, less tourist boats. This is good. The problem with tourism is that it tends to, there's a lot of ecotourism that is not vetted. So you have a lot of fake ecotourism, but more than that, you just need to, look, we know that tourists are going to be irresponsible. They're on vacation. We can't expect tourists to be responsible. So there are beautiful places that are taking the lead. And one I wanted to share with everybody on our positive eco news is Sikkim, which is in northern India. And this is one of the most beautiful tourist destinations in the world. They have, let's see here. Let me get you guys this beautiful, they have these incredible blue streams, and they're basically have all of everything's on the side of the mountain, right? It's incredible. They have these giant Buddhist temples, but they have a lot of tourists, and that has led to an infestation of plastic bottles. So what they've done, and this is a very small town, they have created the initiative, and they are going to introduce bamboo water bottles only for tourists. I think they can rent them or buy them. And isn't that incredible? Now, these are the bamboo. And when I was in Asia, I saw a lot of incredible bamboo work. I saw bicycles made of bamboo. It was so cool, so beautiful, so sustainable, and such an incredible way to move forward. So this little town has said no more. We need you guys. We need the tourists, but we just don't need the trash. So there we go. When the tourists come in and it's the only thing they have, if they can't buy the plastic, they can't pollute the plastic. So it's one interesting, really cool step taken by a very small town with not a lot of budget to try to save the very environment that creates their economy, and it's very important. So anyway, very, very exciting. Good news. And let's see. Now, Vera said, have you ever heard about the facts of this absolutely amazing sounds at sunrise or sunset here in the wild in South Africa? Wow. Maybe there's also an input to nature. I can only imagine because, when you get to see a sunset or a sunrise, it's a different set of every piece of nature that's out. Everything is active at a different time of the day. Like when you're surfing and you go out and you have this beautiful sunrise, although you do have to be careful if you're in a sharky area because that's feeding time. So you do have to know the habits of all the creatures around you and make sure that you fit into those habits, and if you don't, then, take your chances. Vicky, yes. Vicky, I cannot wait to be back in Asia area. And I'm very excited. There's a lot of work in Thailand that I want to work on. There's a lot of great activism out there, as well as the Philippines, Cambodia, and Vietnam. And you find some of the most beautiful innovations. And that's what we want to do today is celebrate innovations worldwide. So if you're tuning in late, just as a quick wrap up, they're actually bringing coral reefs. I almost said Coralie. I can see your name is exactly that. They're bringing coral reefs back to life by playing recordings of active coral reefs where the coral reefs are dead, so that the fish are responding to it, which means they listen, they comprehend, and they react, which means they are thinking in the same sense that we are and interacting with that. So it's not only an amazing way for us to finally understand that fish have a way more complex life going on that we just don't pay any attention to, but also that vibrations work. Vibrations are our universe. Super cool. And number two, a tourist town that's decided no more plastic bottles, bamboo water bottles for our tourists only. Super cool. San Francisco did that too with their airport. So let's see. Sonia says, when I went to Thailand, plastic bottles were everywhere. Yeah, Sonia, I know there are really a lot of these countries are now trying to find ways to stem all of that. It's terrible. We were in the middle of the Mekong River in Cambodia. I didn't even see another person for a while, and there was plastic bottles. Crazy. We saw them in the Amazon too, and I'm not even exaggerating. 3 days on the river, I saw more plastic bottles on the river than people. And Coca-Cola should be responsible. It's their trash. It's their trash, and it's dangerous, and they should be responsible. They should bear the cost of cleaning it, which, as we talk about, is an upstream solution to the problems that are going on right now. Sonia says, when I went to the Phi Phi Islands off Phuket, there was trash in all the coves and the areas we went to, plastic, styrofoam, oil containers. Do they really need to do something with the plastic? Vicky says, replying to Sonia, so true. We get so much beach plastic, even coming all the way from Indonesia in the surf. That's the other problem, is a lot of the trash is generated in the areas, but it also is being sent off of other areas, being sucked into gyres and redistributed. So a lot of the plastics that are coming from landfills from other countries, and this even includes the United States, the Pitcairn Islands in the middle of nowhere is some of the most polluted area in the world because it comes from our trash from the United States. So the problem with pollution and plastics is a worldwide issue, and it really, really needs to be dealt with everywhere. The U.S. creates almost over 90%, I believe, of the plastic nurdles that become plastics. And so, we have to start to stem it at the source, and I always say, and I know it sounds crazy, but people are spending all this time figuring out a way to make better plastics for the world. We don't even need them. Everything was fine before plastic. We had glass. I don't know. It's interesting. In California, if you want to have a Coca-Cola, personally, I don't drink sodas, but if you want a Coca-Cola, people prefer to get the Coca-Colas from Mexico because, one, they're made with sugar cane, but two, they come in glass bottles and they're just better. So it's kind of interesting. They are there. It is available. Plastics, of course, have been chosen by the companies for their quickness. And again, upstream, the manufacturers don't pay the burden. Downstream costs are where we pay the burden. We have to do our beach cleanups. We have to find ways to make things happen. But what we're finding is we want now, through revolution, through routine, to provide more pressure on these companies to make upstream solutions before it even leaves their factories. We want them responsible. And we can do that. We can do that. As I always talk about, revolution through routine. Everything you buy at the store is a vote on your ethical behavior one way or the other. You are telling a company that you're going to like their plastics and keep buying them, or you're going to stop buying them. It's hard to do in modern life, but there are always ways, and there are sustainable ways. And the good news is there's ways to help the environment by eating the proper chocolates, drinking the proper beer. And, you don't have to just live off fresh fruit to help change the world. But you do need to know how to turn your dollar into a vote for ethical and sustainable products. I personally like to use a product called boycott.com. You can go there and download their app, and they'll tell you, you pick what your ethics are, and it tells you if the products match up or not. And they're great. They're fantastic. But, if you guys have other sites that you think might also be good for that, let me know, please. But, we're finding, I think, that we have a change, and that's why we wanted to talk about kindness today. There's a change in how we're approaching the world. We used to see the world as our resource, and we've hit the brakes on that starting way back in the 70s, and people calling for Earth Day, people calling for change. But our collective call for change has worked. And we're seeing companies like Nike create recyclable shoes called the Space Hippie. We're seeing companies like Igloo, who are one of the main, destroyers of our land, create recyclable igloos that no longer, and they're also compostable. So the companies that generally are destroying the earth are starting to listen to us, and we have their ear. So, it's a very exciting time to be an activist, whether you consider yourself a conservationist or an environmentalist, right now is the time we can make a change. We have their ears. We have them by the ears. The wallet, the ... Fill in the sentence as you think. Vicky says, after on, good to see your face and hear your voice. Thank you, Vicky. Very nice to have you on today. Vicky, by the way, everybody, is an amazing activist. And Vicky works with the Cove. Vicky has put a lot of time into saving orangutan, elephant, dolphins. Vicky lives her life that way, and also I think shares, very, very openly shares her understanding of conservation with her kids and her family. So it's a really great thing to see. Thank you, Vicky, for being on. You've always been one of the great activists that I've known, and it's really nice to see you on the show here with us today. Thank you for your input as well. And perhaps we could talk you into coming on the show and talking about elephants over there. Please send me a message on Facebook. Let me know. Sonia, what do you do when you're overseas traveling and you need water? Good question. Rather than use bottled plastic water. That is, you know what, Sonia, that is a great question. Sonia, a lot of it, it's a very tricky question. Okay, I found myself in that situation where what do you do? There were two different solutions. One, we were on the Amazon, and I just brought iodine pills. So the problem is, we have plastic, and that is all you can buy. And you're absolutely right in pointing this out, Sonia. This is a major issue we have. If you're in the middle of the Amazon, all you can buy is plastic bottles. So what do? You have to minimize it. Once we ran out of them, then I would just refill my refillable water bottle with an iodine pill and water from the actual Amazon. Not preferable, but beat buying more plastic. Difficult, nonetheless. The other aspect, Sonia, one thing I found that was fascinating in Vietnam, they have public water coolers. So you can just go and refill for free. It's super cool. Actually, I found that in the Malaysian airport. I found that in a lot of airports, free, clean, filtered water, right? Instead of doing it. So you just take your water bottle and you can refill. And in Vietnam, it was super cool. Funny story. We were going through and I went into a store and I was like, can I refill this? Yeah, thanks. So I started tasting it and it tasted real weird to me. It didn't taste like water. And I looked at it and it was brown and I was like, oh man, I think that maybe there's a language barrier, something's wrong. So I poured it out. I was like, this tastes weird. Pete was with me. I had him taste the water. He was like, yeah, it doesn't taste right. Anyway, come to learn that it's a very light tea. A lot of places over there don't serve just water, but they add a little bit of tea to it. And if you're not expecting tea in your water, sometimes it's hard to distinguish that it's tea in there. Anyway, but Sonia, good point. Sometimes we are trapped and stuck, and we just have to do our best. We just have to do our best. It's really, really difficult. One thing I do, Sonia, when I travel is I go to places and I just simply boil the water. I know it's, but it depends where you're going. For example, in Manila, they actually have extremely high water standards by the World Health Organization. So a lot of cities have a lot of very high standards that they run their tap water through. But if you ever have any doubts, I know if everybody knows this, you boil your water for a few minutes, it's potable. You boil it for 10 minutes, it's sterile. So depending on where you travel, you can go in anywhere, go to your Airbnb, boil up a thing of water, and you know that you have a guaranteed safe water right there. One way to go about it. But Sonia brings up a very good point. When you're traveling, it's very difficult for travelers. So let's hope more places take hold of like this little town in northern India and decide to stop offering us these options. Because if they offer it to us, we're going to take them. And that's the problem. It's a problem with us, with us tourists. And, we can't always win, And when you're when you're doing tourism in a lot of places, you're going to remote areas. And when you go to remote areas, you are really putting yourself in an area where you can get dehydrated quickly, and that can become very dangerous as well. So water is always a consideration. And it's, you know what, Sonia, I think you bring up a good point too, that we don't have an answer yet, and we always need to keep moving forward to find better solutions. I really love the Vietnam solution of having free water. You just refill your water bottle everywhere in the streets and in the stores. Every store has free water available to people. Super cool. Could be a interesting psychological change, you know, the more we start all to think about water and think about the fact that we are all connected and we are together one. And we have to make sure that we have access to water. Access to water is a really important topic. We'll be catching up with that more. But anyway, everybody, I just wanted to share with you those two beautiful, wonderful stories about using life to try to fix the dead reefs, and a little town that said, no more plastic bottles, everybody. We're going to go for bamboo, which is super cool. I always travel with bamboo straw, and I actually have my own wooden. I bought this because of chemo metal taste, but I travel with my own wooden stuff, utensils. And you just clean it the best you can. It's not always sanitary when you're traveling in some of these harsh conditions. Anyway, we do the best we can, hey? So everybody have a wonderful, wonderful day. It's great to see everybody on this Tuesday. I love having everybody catch up and talk about these beautiful topics. Remember, we've been all collectively calling out for change for over 40, 50 years now, and it's starting to happen, and we get to live at that beautiful time where companies are listening, the world is listening, our politicians are listening, everyone's listening. We know what we need to say, and we just have to keep talking about it. And remember, it's our world. We got to keep talking about it. It's the most important thing we can do right now. So it's beautiful to see this group together and to see everybody so active and contributing so many great ideas to it as well. And thank you, Sonia, for being on. Thanks, everybody. It's great to see you all. Have a wonderful day. Remember, it's our world. Let's talk about it.